Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Activities for People Living at Home with Dementia. I love the people part of that.
Yep.
We are proud to offer this series with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and the United Way of Tarrant County. These programs are recorded and are made available for viewing through a YouTube channel for future use. I am Martha Brown, your host for today's activity. Today, I'm bringing you the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History, and they are bringing us some history to show. We have Kirsty and Caleb in front of the camera, and we have Stephanie?
Bethany.
Bethany. I'm so sorry. I should have written it down. And Bethany behind the camera. I just can't wait for Don and Myra to see what they brought this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly.
Take it away.
All right.
All right. Yeah.
Now
So
we can go.
yeah, now I'm good. Okay. So we brought essentially just a smorgasbord of different things. It originally started off as like our favorite things from the collection, and then turned into just Caleb's favorite things because I was the only one who did the assignment. So yes. So we're gonna start with this American flag right here. And what can you see? There we go. And you can count it, or I will just save you the trouble and tell you that there are only 45 stars on this flag. And
Okay.
so this would have flown between 1896 and 1908, so 12 years. Colorado was the 45th state, I believe. That was
Colorado.
yes, Colorado was the 45th state, so it would have flown after that. So the way that they add new stars to the flag, since that really hasn't changed in a very long time, is they essentially, if you were made a state before the 4th of July, on the 4th of July, the new flag with the star was added in. So like in the case of when we went to 49 to 50, Alaska became a state just before the 4th of July on 1959. But Hawaii didn't become a state until July 27th of 1959. So we had 1 year where we had a 49-star flag and then jumped up to the 50-star flag.
Okay.
No flag is ever obsolete for the US, so this could still be flown today by any government and still represent the United States, even though it doesn't have the correct number of stars. Now, the other interesting thing about the stars is that during the 1800s, when they were adding in all the new states like crazy, flag makers would try to speculate and guess how many stars they were going to need to print on the flag. And so we have a flag in our collection that has 42 stars. Now, there was never an official flag with 42 stars. There was one with 43 because I believe it was Idaho became a state just a couple of days before the July 4th cutout. Oh, they became a state on July 3rd. So a lot of these flag makers had thought, oh, 42 stars, we'll start making them so we can get them out on that 4th of July. But then surprise, surprise. So every now and then you'll find a 42-star flag, but that was never an official flag of the United States. Now, until about 1912, these stars could be arranged essentially in any pattern that you wanted to. The original Flag Act set out by the Second Continental Congress just stated that the blue would have stars in the design of a new constellation, I believe was the wording. And so if you look it up online, you'll see some older flags where you have the circle. Sometimes the stars will be in a pattern of another star, like a bigger star. Sometimes you'll have them clustered up in the middle and then stars around the edges. It's very unique. I wish I had a better one to show you guys, but I definitely encourage you to go look it up. The other interesting thing is that after the Flag Act was enabled, they started adding both stars and stripes for every new state that was added in. So we got up to only 15, and then they realized, oh, that's gonna be either way too small stripes or way too big of a flag.
Yeah, too big of a flag. It goes way, way out.
So then in 1795, they said, that's enough. We're not changing the flag again. And so for about 20 or so years, the flag had 15 stars and 15 stripes. And then in 1818, they passed a law that said, okay, we're going to go back to 13 stripes, and then we'll just add the star for each state. So that's how we get that pattern today.
And 13 for the original colonies.
Yes.
Is for the stripes, and the stars, of course, for each state.
Yeah. So yeah, anything else that I've talked about before? Miss, y'all have any questions about this?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
How rare are these kind of flags?
It just depends. So you'll find a lot of, yes. You'll find a lot of 48-star flags and obviously a lot of 50-star flags. Those are the two longest flags that were in service. The 50-star flag just surpassed the 48-star flag in 2007 as the longest one. We have a lot of 49-star flags as well. I'm guessing just because that was more recent, more people were collecting and probably thinking, oh, we should hand this off to a museum to preserve it. But I'm guessing the less, obviously, the older they are, the more rare it's going to be. The ones that are misprinted, like the 42-star flag, I'm guessing are a little bit rarer.
Okay.
Just because they weren't circulated and they were never an official flag. So there would be no protocol about how to properly dispose them or preserve them. Would be my guess. I could be totally wrong.
Well, I mean, I just wondered if there was a lot of private users would have these, or if there was is there a market for them or something.
Oh, there's absolutely a market for them. I came across a whole website that was just like a dealership for antique flags. So there's definitely
Wow,
a large collection for it.
Caleb, you were saying earlier today that this one is in delicate condition. How does it get to be in delicate condition, and what parts of the flag wear out?
Yes. So this flag itself is actually in pretty good condition.
Oh, good.
Our 42-star flag one is not in good condition. That's why I couldn't bring it today. And typically it's just along
weather and stuff.
Yeah, weathering, and then gravity itself, if it's hung for a long time, just its natural weight will start pulling apart the seams and the different material. That's why when we store it, we will roll them up. It'll keep it from creasing, but then also take that weight off of them as well.
okay.
Quilts and
Yeah, like
blankets.
any kind of textiles is like we have like racks upon racks that have several different, like whether it's flags or quilts or even capes. But like every so often, roughly about every 6 to 4 months, we'll go through and we'll actually just slightly turn them over a little bit, dust them off just to make sure that it's like it's not creasing, and we'll also make sure that like the wrappings here and everything are not too tight, because we don't want to create additional creases onto the flag itself.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is what it will look like if it's just sitting on a rack.
Yeah, and we'll just slightly turn it and
Wrap it
do
up,
that every so
tissue
often.
paper.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's how it would be normally stored.
Y'all take really good care of your artifacts.
We try to.
Yeah. Acid-free paper in the great boxes and all of that.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Love those gray boxes. So yes.
Do you have any idea how many flags are I wanted to say printed, are manufactured or bought every year? Is that ever?
I would not even dare to make a guess.
Like just
And-
American flags?
Or
Yeah. 50-star American flags.
ooh, I don't
There's
know.
so many for military and funerals and
Yeah, and they're
Yes.
all a lot of them are just plastic. They're not hand stitched flags for the most part.
Yeah,
Yes.
they probably have more of like a polyester blend with some of them.
Yeah.
But then also just 4th of July. It's like I bet the month of July. has
Yeah.
yeah.
a ton
I was gonna say just all like the little ones that you'll see
Mhm.
people decorating with and whatnot.
Yeah, but like probably like military, or if it's for federal or like an embassy, they would probably have to issue a new flag maybe 3 years, depending on like how bad, like if there were so many winter storms or hurricanes or wherever the
Mm.
facility was.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then there are people that want every flag that's ever flown on this at the Capitol. So those
Yeah.
probably get daily turnover.
Oh yeah, I think they do. The capital ones do get it's a
Mhm.
new one every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know the American flag, actually the Texas flag also that we fly, they fade really fast in the Texas sun. So I don't know if they're made out of, I think they're made out of nylon or something like that. Am I right?
Yeah, I think some of
Cotton nylon.
Yeah, this one is cotton though. I'm almost positive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It
harder
looks like
to
a
tell.
cotton from here.
Mhm.
And that was pre-World War II, right?
Yes, this would have been flown
Probably
during
cotton.
the War of
Yeah.
1898, so the Spanish-American War.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that'd have to be cotton.
take my hat off to them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Whew. How many flags do you have in your collection?
Oh. Well, we probably have about 20 American flags.
Oh,
And then if you add in, I would get close to 50,
Well, I would say more.
maybe more. Because we
Because
have,
there's like one section that's like different, like carpets or something, but then there's like almost 5 different rows that
Yeah.
are flags, and that has like about 10 on each one. So it's roughly 50.
yeah, I'd say about
Yeah.
50 or so flags.
Maybe 70.
So do you have a display set of the Six Flags over Texas?
Oh.
We have a miniature model of it. Yeah,
Okay.
I've come across that. We don't have a French or Spanish flag.
Okay,
Those would be the only 2 I think we're missing. We have replicas of ones,
yeah.
but I don't think they were the ones that would have been flown over Texas during that time. During those times, flags were still kind of developing and it wasn't quite used the same way that we would be thinking about it. Even whenever the American flag was first invented, it was more for distinguishing ships than it was for like flying other times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the original design for the flag probably came from the British East India Company. Their flag had the red and white stripes, but then the Union Jack up here.
mhm.
And then the man who was basically the undersecretary of the Navy. I forget his name. I want to say his last name was Harkins or something like that.
I think so, yeah.
He's the one who took credit per se for the design of the flag. He wanted to be paid with a barrel of beer. That was the payment he wanted.
You know what?
Yeah, that's what he wanted.
Well, it's kind of like what was it, that jacket that we had that he got it for a bottle of whiskey.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we do have all of that. So
Mhm.
all sorts, all kinds.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I bet you have some things in your collection that have never seen the light of day.
Possibly,
Yes.
or at least not since
It's been accession.
it's been
yeah.
accession, I would imagine.
Mhm.
Some stuff, it's like it can't really handle the travel. So
Mhm.
like different things like that, like they wouldn't be able to be seen by the public just because if we were actually able to get it to the public, it wouldn't be in its original condition just because it wouldn't be able to handle the trip.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
And just us not knowing either.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
find we find things all the time in the collection. We have a specific designation for it, for found in collection,
Mhm.
because just either our predecessors or somehow, or like something got lost in a pocket and we never found it.
And
Mhm.
it got put on a different shelf
got-
that's totally away from where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, so we
Oh,
find
like in the
things-
grocery store.
Yeah, basically.
Uh-huh.
Imagine you're cleaning out your attic every single day, and you're just
But
like,
it has really awesome stuff. in
yeah,
it.
but it has cooler things than mothballs. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like even today, I think it was in the session before this one, we found out because Caleb had said that this was supposed to be for SJ
from TS Sellers.
TS sellers, but what's actually written on the flag is TJ sellers.
Huh.
So that would be something that us going back now after today would be to make sure,
Yeah,
look at all of the paperwork, go to the
Manufacturer.
database and make sure that it's like, well, it's different here. We need to make sure that it
Mhm.
either needs to change in all of our database or there just was some kind of,
I'm
Error.
guessing, I'm almost positive that was a mix up, because we looked at his paperwork yesterday
Mhm.
and the paperwork says TS Sellers on it. So whoever, yeah, we probably will. We'll make note of it. So, yeah.
but things like that. It's like you'll find several different things. You never can say that it's going to be a regular day at the office.
Nope.
No.
It never is the same. day.
We try and plan our days, and then next thing you know, we're out in left field researching a thing that we didn't even know existed
My goodness.
or was an issue before that day. So it's
Mhm.
keeps you on your toes, and this is exciting.
It is.
Mhm. All right, so
What's in front of Caleb?
yes, we'll talk about
Yes.
these. Yes, this was not in our earlier sections, but we thought we'd bring it
Yes.
out.
You want to talk about baskets or the pots?
We'll do
first?
pots first.
Or
We'll go
pottery.
Pottery first. These are some things that are going in our museum in a little bit. We have these kind of display windows, and each one is going to be a little vignette into different things. And so we thought we'd pull out these items as well to show you guys. So these first two pots are Greek pottery. They date from probably around 500 BC to 300 BC. So the time of Alexander the Great, Peloponnesian War, Persian War, that kind of classical Greek era.
500.
And this one's called.
That is oh gosh.
Are those grapes?
Oh, yeah, it does have grapes,
It
but
does
the
have
vase
grapes.
is called
The vase is called an
onokoe.
onokoe,
Onokoe.
or oinokoe.
Gesundheit.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
It's like OINOCHEI or something along those lines.
There's another O in there
That's
somewhere.
beautiful.
Mhm.
Yes. So this type of vase would typically have been used for carrying wine, pouring wine.
Mhm.
Each kind of pottery style would be used for a specific form of liquid, although I don't know how much they would stick to that per se. I can't imagine like you couldn't use this for water if you needed to.
I feel like this would be like a personal jug, like a personal.
Yeah,
cup
or
for
well,
wine.
or just pouring wise, because you have
Yeah.
this lip right here of that.
Mhm.
That might have been for company or for show.
Could be. So this is what we would call it's not quite the best example of it, but it's the closest example we have to what's called red figure Greek pottery. And basically they would take a clay or terracotta pot like this one down here, glaze it with this black substance, and then they would chip away to reveal the red underneath for the design.
Oh,
So some of this
Wow.
is painted on there, but it's like this red line per se, that's scraped away. So if you ever see in like a museum or something like that, the heroes on there, if they're in red, the skin tone is red, it's red pottery. You also red figure pottery. You also have black figure pottery where they make the figuring, they scrape around the black to make the figures.
Mhm.
Those are kind
So
of
how old is that one?
this one's also probably around 500 to 300 BC, I would guess.
Very-
Ooh,
Yes, very old. And so this one down here is a little less ornate, but this is called a Liquidthose.
Mhm.
This probably would have been used for storing olive oil or some sort of oil. A little bit less ornate, but this lets you see kind of what the original before it was designed would have looked like. It's pretty small.
mhm. Perfume, maybe?
Possibly perfume. Steve earlier talked about anointing oil, which definitely could have been used
Oh,
for.
yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
The perfume jars though would normally have not necessarily had a handle, but would have been about like this.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Like that size, and then kind of like a.
Or maybe
almost
even
like a-
cooking herbs, cooking oil
Mhm.
Mhm.
with
Yep.
herb infusion. That's beautiful.
Yes.
Do you have any, do you keep ivory since it's considered to be unsaleable these days?
I can answer a little bit of that.
That's a
Yeah.
gray area.
So ivory was made illegal in the 70s.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so most of the time museums would keep things that were previously, they don't accession, they don't take anything that's ivory unless they already had it and they keep it. Now we do take endangered, like in our science collection, we have things like, we have tiger taxidermy, we have like a lion pelt, and those are given to us by police stations that go in and they find them, they find them illegally, somebody's brought them in illegally, and they give them to educational institutions like us or universities so that
Yeah.
we can use them to teach the public with.
Wow.
And so ivory's similar to that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. So ivory's not something that we actively
Take.
take.
We do have some things in our collection that are made from ivory.
And those
Yeah.
are usually things that are probably have been taken before the 70s.
Yes.
Yes.
That were brought in before it was made illegal.
Yes.
To
Mhm.
Mhm.
have ivory.
With good provenance.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the
It's a
Yeah.
bit.
The provenance is a little sketchy sometimes,
Especially before the 70s.
especially before the 70s. We try and do better now.
Yes.
We
Wait.
try not to make the mistakes of our predecessors.
Like Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So we have not had anyone show up with a bunch of ivory yet and try and give it to us. And hopefully we won't.
Yeah.
Hey, I got some ivory here.
Yeah.
For it.
Say that again.
Say somebody showed up with a trench coat offering to sell you ivory on the
Yeah.
street.
He's
Oh,
like,
from the inside of the coat.
hey, you want some elephant tusks?
Yeah.
What about a
You want to buy a
sundial?
sundial? Yep.
We were talking about Hercules earlier because of the pottery.
Pottery.
I was like, oh,
So yeah.
that's
So this is a basket. Does not go with the pottery at all. This is a
Yes.
Native American basket
if you want to move it forward. I'll move this
from
back.
Northern California. That region in particularly is known for its basket making. I don't know the specific tribe or people group that it came from. Our database doesn't say it, and I'm definitely not an expert to be guessing at it. But I just love this design. It's so unique and so complicated. I almost want to say,
Yeah.
with the base and the lid and everything. This date's probably around 1920, 1930, I want to say. So it's not super old comparatively.
Yeah, to the
I
pottery.
have a question. I probably don't know, but
Okay.
just because, not that you wouldn't, just that it sounds like you don't have a lot of provenance on it.
Could you say that a little bit louder?
I'm sorry.
Repeat it?
I'm the quiet of everyone. I just had a question for him, actually, because it was made in the 20s, a lot of the stuff that they made, if it wasn't specifically for use, a lot of them would be to sell,
Yes.
to make a profit, to
Yes.
make money. Do you think that this basket would have been something of
Yes.
that nature?
Yes.
Because it is very detailed.
Yes, I'm
That's
almost
valuable.
positive that this was probably made for tourists to
Mhm.
sell for the tribe.
Because if you think about it, it's almost like it would have been used like for like a purse.
Yeah. So I don't know how functional or how realistic it would be to what those people groups would have actually used, although I wouldn't be surprised if they did use it
Yeah.
and functionally. But given the
It's
time,
upside down, it's a bowl.
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Like seeds.
But yeah. Oh no, I'm not going to actually turn it upside down, Christy.
You
I
never
do know better than that.
Okay.
But yes, given the time period and provenance, I'm guessing it was somebody was traveling up through the reservations through that area, stopped by, saw a local shopper or whatever, and thought, "Oh, this is a really nice," and then decided to give it to us.
Trade it for whiskey.
Probably not by the 1920s. Although actually,
Hey, there was still prohibition.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying,
You know,
oh yeah, not 1920s then.
not 19. Yeah.
they would trade it.
Yeah.
It looks like it was valuable enough that it could have been used for a trade.
Possibly, yeah.
That's so intricate.
So what's it made out of?
Tobacco fiber.
Tobacco fiber.
Yes, according to
Wow.
our records, it's tobacco.
Mhm.
Some sort.
I'm
I'm guessing that there's probably different types as well, just because
Yeah.
typically they wouldn't use dyes, they would use the natural colors of the weave. So I'm guessing that this reddish brown and black might be something different, although I could be wrong.
Well, it could be in older stages of tobacco before they dried it out.
Could be,
Mm.
It also depends on where it came from.
yeah.
Mhm.
Northern California.
Oh,
is-
you can do that.
Yeah.
Well, and they,
Yeah, so I'm not entirely sure. The only thing we have in our records is that it's tobacco fiber. So that's the only
Interesting.
thing.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Mhm.
Talk about the edges and how they're curling in because of
Oh, yes.
history.
So you can see on these edges right here, how the wave-like pattern, we're pretty
Yes.
sure that's just from age,
Oh.
most likely humidity of some sort, just because this is wood, these are fibers, they will warp over time.
Mhm.
And we can't imagine that it's possible that they designed it this way, but we're guessing it's most likely.
I feel like we designed
Well,
that.
they seem to be pretty regular pattern. I mean, is it?
They do, so that's kind of, although hold on, I got to
Yeah.
this.
Oh yeah.
That's a little bit deeper than like this over here, per
Mm,
se.
yes.
This side is almost
And,
straight.
and this side is a little bit straighter, so it's
Oh,
not
my.
quite as even as it might look. Yes, so
Mhm. And if you didn't have it stuffed with paper, it would probably not continue to keep its shape.
It probably,
it would hold up decently well, but
it would definitely start to divot in a lot more, especially
Yes.
like in this portion.
Kind of film on this
Mhm.
side, it looks like it's a little bit lower in the back.
Mhm.
oh
So that might be
yeah,
where it has a little bit
you
of-
can kind of see a
of
bit
a bulge.
it tipping
would've-
down
Yeah.
Oh,
this
yeah.
way.
Toward the
Oh, is it?
camera.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There we go.
Mhm.
So you can kind of see
Oh,
the bulge
yes.
on
Yeah.
this side. There we go. My finger, I'm getting all turned around.
The mirror effect.
So
Yes.
it's probably had a little bit of more gravity, like it's started leaning, giving to that end.
Well, and that's something else too that we do. We were talking about what we do with the flags or different textiles. Sometimes if we know ahead of time, like what's in a box, if it's like different pottery or if it's different weaved baskets, and we know that it's been in there for a long time, and like we'll usually see like who last inventoried it. And if it's been more than like 10 years since someone has inventoried that box, we'll usually go in, look at the box, look at the items, see if something needs to be taken out of that box and put in its own box, or if it like just needs a little bit more support, like if it needs more support on this side so that gravity
yeah.
doesn't continue to make that bulge deeper.
Mhm.
So it's
Yes.
definitely a full-time job.
Yes.
Mhm.
So we have a larger basket here that I didn't pull out, and it's not in the best condition. It's still okay to be displayed, but we just don't want to handle it too much. But it's a big, big basket. I don't know. It's about, well, I can't quite show on here how big it is, but it's a good like 4 or 5 feet. No, not 4 or
It's
5
like
feet.
21 inches.
Yeah, it's 21
more
inches or so.
tall.
It's
Yeah.
a very large cone-shaped basket. It's a burden
Mhm.
basket. But because it's so big over time, it's just kind of folding in on itself. And so
Oh.
the way we have that sort is that the base of it, where it's at its smallest point, is it's most sturdy. So it's most sturdy. So we made a foam base that we carved into for a divot, and we set the end of the cone on it, and then just around it, we've padded it with acid-free tissue paper to structurally support it. So it's sitting on its strongest part. Things you have to do. Okay. Yep. Well, we'll
Yep.
move on to swords. Okay.
Mhm.
Swords.
Swords.
Try not to stab the American flag.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
We'll move it out of the way just a little bit.
Yep, that'd be great. Okay. So kind of in connection with the American flag, this one in particular, we have this sword. Let's see.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So this is particularly called a callus. It's a form of a waved sword that you'll find in Southeastern Asia,
Colored.
Indonesia, and the Philippines. It originated in Indonesia, and those are called kris or kris, spelled K-R-I-S. They're typically a little bit shorter. They have more of a religious aspect to them. But this one is from the Philippines, so the technology and the style just disseminated up north over time. And this is more of a typical sword for it. This dates to 1898, so we're pretty sure, and our records say this, that it was most likely taken by a gentleman who fought in the Philippines during that war and brought it back home. So that's a kind of interesting provenance story it has. Now, creases, so like these but smaller, they're passed down by family members to each other, and because they're so small, they'll be thinner than this, and this wave pattern, they break really easily. But you wouldn't toss them away; you would instead reforge them, or reforge them, rework them, fix them basically. But you would add on to them like gilding or some sort of design. And so a lot of the older ones will be more innate, have more design. I think the oldest one we found is like, let's say dating around like 1100 AD or something like that. And it's crazy ornate. But this one is a little bit more practical. When you swing it, not that I have swung it, But when you hold it, it feels a lot like a machete where it's forward heavy, top forward heavy. So it's a very
Yeah.
slashing kind of weapon, even though it does have a point on it. So you can point, stab as well. But it very much, you make your arm naturally want to come down in a slicing motion.
Sounds like a hacksaw.
Yeah, a bit like a hacksaw.
Wow.
So, y'all have any questions about that one?
What's the sheath made out of?
This is bamboo, I believe.
It's a bit more worn.
Yes, a little bit more worn, more practical. So some of the older creases, or sorry, the newer creases, because they were ceremonial, a lot of times they would glue the sword into the sheath. And so we have one of those in our collection. I just didn't bring it this time.
They glued it, the sword into the sheath?
Yeah, so like they would have like resin and that would hold it on there because it wasn't ever meant to be drawn. It was just meant to be worn.
Chris.
Okay.
So that's not the case for this one. This one was definitely probably used for fighting. But some of the other ones
Very well.
are ceremonial.
There's no blood on it, so we're good.
That's good.
I cleaned it really well before I brought it because there was some rust on there.
Okay.
Yes,
Can
All
I
right.
can I ask you an off the wall question?
absolutely.
You said something about when I come in, I plan my day, but I never know what's going to happen.
Yes.
What would a normal day planning look like?
Well, it
Well,
depends on the day
Great
and what we're
question.
working on. So like right now, we're working on getting those vignettes done here. And so typically our day is planned around what do we need to do in terms of painting those, installing the items, what we need to install those items. But
what
then
boxes do we need?
what boxes do we
tissue
need? We
paper?
need tissue paper, things like that. But then, especially if we're in the collections in our warehouse, we'll start grabbing those things and preparing for them. But then we'll be looking at the records and go, oh, this doesn't match with this. And that leads down a rabbit hole. Or we get an email that says, hey, in a couple of days, can we get this item to do this with it? And we have to drop things and go, okay, now we need to go find this item and see how
Mhm.
likely it is we can use it for that.
Yeah.
Ah, thank you.
Exactly. You're welcome.
Mhm.
So, okay, yes.
Japan.
Japan. Gotta get all my Japanese names right now. Okay, so I love these two swords because even though they don't go together, like they were not collected together, they would have been worn together by samurai. So these date anywhere from around the mid 1600s to the mid 1800s.
Mm,
Time period in Japan called the Edo period, so EDO. Edo was the capital, it's modern day Tokyo. It's the time period in Japan where the capital shifted from Kyoto to Tokyo. It was during the reign of the Tokugawa shogunate, which was one of the first unifying governments of Japan. And so during this time period, Japan was relatively peaceful, and so samurais took on a much more ceremonial role than necessarily a fighting role. And so wearing the two swords together was almost a symbol of office. If you saw two people wearing that, or people wearing those two swords, you knew that man's a samurai, he's above me in the social order. Together, the pair is called daisho, D-A-I-S-H-O. It's just a pairing of swords, a long sword and a short sword. This short sword is called a wakizashi. It's just a long knife, basically. And if you were going to visit Lord, Daimyo, or whoever's castle, you would leave your longer sword and then only wear the shorter blade. The longer sword is a katana, which is what we're typically more familiar with. Typically, a katana is a two-handed weapon, although during the Edo period,
Yes.
Okay.
Thought it went on
A
wrong.
man named Miyamoto Musashi, that's the name,
Mhm.
developed a style with one-handed katana, in which you would also fight with the dagger, with the short sword in the other hand, which I just think is cool because I like the idea of dual wielding swords, because I like that. And so the other interesting about both of these pairs is that the hand wrapping on it, if Chrissy can show it. So
If you can, just a little
little
bit
bit.
right there.
you should see, there you go,
Oh, yeah.
the bubbling, the bubbling rough stuff on inside of the black wrapping. That's manta ray skin. So that's a traditional
Race.
Ooh, that's
Or-
fish?
swords.
Uh-huh.
Yes. And then it'd be wrapped in this silk, and then it would have this charm in it, basically as a symbol of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My goodness.
In the smaller dagger, it looks more like a daisy or like a sunflower.
Mhm.
I can't tell what this is.
Yes. And so what's interesting about these is that I'm almost positive that the hilts are authentic, but I'm not as sure about the blades themselves. So typically Japanese swords, especially during this time period, the way that they would forge them in a way that the back would be softer than the edge of it. The edge would be harder. The way they did that is they would pat clay down around here, leaving the edge exposed, and that would leave this kind of black wave marking along the edge. And as you can see on this one, it doesn't quite have it. Now that might just be because it hasn't been polished in a while. And so if we did that, you might be able to see it. But the only sure way to actually tell would be to remove the hilt and look on the tang of the sword, and suppose there should be the forger's name engraved on it. Now,
Hmm.
we're not going to be taking apart this sword anytime soon, because that would not be responsible of us, but if we wanted to, that's how we would learn.
Mhm.
We figure it out.
So are katanas come in different sizes?
I think
Um,
katanas, at least by this time period, they're gonna be pretty standardized.
Okay.
During earlier periods, you'll have different types of swords that aren't quite katanas, but kind of forerunners of katanas, and there you'll have longer ones or shorter ones. What's interesting about this and katanas is that the sheath is longer than the blade itself, and that's to help draw your sword out faster.
Oh, okay.
So in terms of like, almost think like a quick draw situation,
Mhm.
because one of the very first steps you would take when you're fighting with a sword is the draw out of the sheath is your first slash
Mhm.
sometimes.
Hmm.
Oh.
Could we see that side picture of the daisy again? Your camera was a little close just a minute ago.
Yeah, let me.
Sorry, I was miming things. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know you
so-
can't see.
Turn it sideways so we can see through the hilt.
Oh, yeah. I got you.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Very cool.
they even had pretty things for killing.
Yep, it was always decorative, no
Yep.
matter the occasion.
So decades of Japanese movies that I've watched, I thought they've always been much longer than that, because the movies show they were longer than that. So I'm
Yeah.
disillusioned now by the
Well, and
time.
like I said, it could be possible that this blade isn't the original, so this could
Oh,
not
okay.
be an accurate representation of how long the blades are.
Well, and the other thing with different forgers, even though they would kind of have a standard, depending on the time, a lot of stuff was personally made for a person. So it's like if you
Oh, okay.
a shorter, someone who is of shorter stature, they would need a longer sword, or vice versa.
The only caveat I'll add to that
Mhm.
is that during the Tokugawa shogunate, which is the Edo period, they go kind of hand in hand. Things were culturally very strict. So you had a certain way that you dress, you had a certain way things were done and were supposed to look. So I wouldn't be entirely surprised if during that period they had a specific
My
Mhm.
sweet boy.
length that the blade needed to be
Okay.
Yeah.
possible. Again, cannot confirm that, but that would be kind of my guess based off of what I know about the period.
Need to talk to a samurai forger.
Yep. Yeah, not me.
Ask
you
him,
were-
be like, this question answered.
Yes.
If you were outfitting an army, you would want them all to be the same so that your warriors would know what they have.
Typically, yes. The unique thing about the samurai, though, is that they would have fought more as individuals than as a army unit.
Oh,
So think more like knights in terms
Right, yeah.
single duels or
Mhm.
not the typical, like you think of Roman legions working together, marching together
Ah,
or anything. So it
Or
is,
even redcoats.
or even redcoats or
Yeah.
like American military.
yeah.
This is a much more personalized, a lot more to the warrior's discretion of things.
Interesting.
Good to know.
Yes, because essentially samurais they're the warrior class, the higher knight class. Some people don't say you can't compare Japanese feudalism like that to European feudalism, but it makes for a pretty easy comparison on the top. So think that in terms of way. So then they would have their soldiers from the lower classes that they would outfit with spears and swords or whatever they had, depending on the era and how wealthy the person was who was
Yeah.
army.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mm.
Interesting.
Well, you
Right,
certainly
that's-
did show us a trove of things today.
Yes, you
You
did.
did.
Do you
All
have any
sorts of
idea when you'll be with us again?
So we've got to schedule that. We're working with Lee to figure out a good schedule for her. So we should be back next month.
Oh,
Yeah.
please.
Oh, good.
Just need to figure out the date.
Yes.
Yes, we will always make room for you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes.
Love showing off our stuff.
Myra and Don, do you have any more questions of these folk?
No, this is
No.
very informative. I
Yeah.
really liked it.
Did
Great.
you keep the little
Gives me
bird
more
that
things that I
decided-
want to look up on.
Now he's gonna want a sword.
No, 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 no.
Little birdie was kicking back and watching. Can you see where he is?
I
Oh,
see.
yes.
Yeah.
He's just
Nap
chilling.
time.
Mhm.
He's chilling. Come here, baby. I'm sorry I had to move him.
He's like, hey,
Yeah, mama, we had to move. Thank you so much. We really
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
Thank you,
Yes.
guys.
You've
Love
given
doing
us an
this.
entire day today, and it's just so
Thank you.
wonderful that you're able to do that.
oh, we're happy to do it. We love doing
Absolutely. Well, we'll see you again soon, right?
All
it.
right.
Should, yes.
Thank you, Kirsty and Caleb
you.
and Bethany.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Martha.
Yes.
See you, Don.
Yeah.
See you, Mary.
And Don and Myra, let's take a look at what's coming up.
Great.
I did hit share, didn't
There
I?
you go.
There we are.
Yep,
Okay.
there we go.
There we are.
Sports.
Sports with Peggy Spear.
The Olympics are still on.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, that ought to be interesting because she'll probably have some old things.
Yep.
Yes. I'm glad y'all could make it this afternoon.
I'm glad we made it too. That was interesting.
Is all
Thank
day
you.
tomorrow, in the Carter Museum or?
I believe it is, but let me double check. Where did it go? You know, nowadays I have to take a picture because I can't remember. Picture. Okay, turn it sideways. February. Artful Moments all day long tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Yay.
Cool.
Now you know. So if you
Thank
want to
you.
sleep late or if you want to come at 10:30, it's all yours.
All
I'm
right.
glad
That's
you're doing
right. You
well.
never know.
We'll let you know, okay?
Great. Okay,
Thank
see
you,
y'all
Martha.
tomorrow. Bye,
Bye-bye.
folks.